No, I'm just going to have to go straight in and say it. Anxiety. I'm going to have to say it. I'm sorry for the anxiety that's been caused. No, are you sorry for the people that have lost their jobs and lost their homes and weren't able to get health care? There were stories of people who were dying of cancer because they couldn't get health care. And their daughter, there was a girl, she was on the radio, her daughter, she was crying and her dad was really poorly and they wouldn't admit him into hospital. And he was halfway through his cancer treatment and he died. That's not anxiety. That's not, oh, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience caused, please write a letter. That's people's lives. And British men and women, that was happening too.
Accessing those documents after the fact is really, really difficult. And because of the way I think the paperwork was issued, and again, it's that overpromise and underdeliver. You go around the globe conquering all these little islands and these places and call it the Commonwealth. But where's the infrastructure to give them a British passport and a British birth certificate, even though we're calling them British citizens? There's no proof, So obviously they've invited our colleagues from the Caribbean to come and join us without this information, no paperwork. There was no attempt to issue those. So you don't get off the bus and go, name John Smith or whatever it might be, passport, birth certificate, driving license. It's go fend for yourself. So then when it does come for applying for positions, taking out a mortgage, getting a residency, going just to see your GP, there's no proof that you are a British citizen. It's
also that real lack of understanding that because there was an assumption that, okay, right, so we said come over here, no worries, look, we've given you this right to reside, happy days, don't worry about it for all good. And then we've got this issue, right, we're going to change it now. So actually, you do need to be able to prove who you are, but don't worry about it. Just go and get yourself a passport then. Just go and get yourself your birth certificate then. Not realising that was, how 75 years ago, someone's bit of paperwork that was in Jamaica probably isn't batting
in a
around.
Box at the back of a church.
Like, I'm not being funny. I panic every time I have to look for my passport, and I know where it is in my house, and I haven't left that house for 20 years, and I still panic. 75 years down the line, that paperwork, which was a piece of paper at the time, probably isn't around. It's not as easy as just saying, all right, well, I'll go and get my old birth certificate then. And it's that, it's a kind of entitled thought process that to assume that people have easy access to that documentation, but also then again, to not put anything in place for people who don't have that documentation. There was no catchment net. There was no like, well, guys, look, don't worry if you can't sort it out. We'll find a way to process you. It was just chaos. It was absolute carnage.
So if it wasn't for MPs like David Lammy, David Lammy for Prime Minister, then, if it wasn't that voice in Parliament, then maybe no compensation might have happened.
Very little has happened. Okay. Very little compensation has happened. The last statistics were, I think it's like 5% of all the people that suffered because of this change of policy have been in any way addressed.
My history, far from a mystery. There's more to me than just misery. Lately I've been searching about my ancestral geography. 1948 to 71 changed my destiny, which is when my nanny and papi migrated overseas, sold fantasies of golden streets and tranquility, promises of work and money only to be met by hostility at the start of 2018. To keep the economy spinning, we hustled to make a living. Through helping, cleaning, healing and driving, the Black Caribbean community will never and never did cease from thriving. From influence on food, language and music, our impact became the complete opposite of elusive. So why does this nation negate our people, doing up deportation to such concrete people, when for a matter of fact the Caribbean influence is such a prolific impact? What would Britain be without our existence?
So I guess the leaving message for me is that for anyone that has got this far through, thank you. But I think the leaving thing for me is that don't look at Windrush as a part of history, because it's still so present and so current, and there is still so much impact as a direct result. We are still here in different shapes and forms and sizes, but this is the legacy, I guess. So don't just look at Windrush as something that happened before we were born, because it still has an impact today.